The chamber was built to make anyone feel small. Ambassador Thomas Reeves stood on a floating platform no larger than a dinner table, suspended in the center of a sphere that could hold a mountain. Above him, below him, and in every direction around him, seats rose in endless spirals. Each seat held a representative from one of the 9,000 species that made up the Galactic Compact. 9,000 pairs of eyes, or clusters of eyes, or sensory organs that served the same purpose, all focused on the single human who dared to stand before them. Thomas kept his hands still at his sides. He was 61 years old, with gray hair cut short and a face weathered by decades of negotiation in places far less dramatic than this. He had talked down warlords. He had brokered peace between nations that had been killing each other for centuries. But he had never felt as alone as he did in this moment. The voice of the Compact spoke. It was not a single being, but a chorus of 10,000 synthesized tones, designed to be understood by every species simultaneously. The sound came from everywhere and nowhere, filling the chamber like water filling a bowl. Humanity, you have been summoned to answer for your actions against the Galactic Compact. You will speak only when addressed. You will answer all questions truthfully. Failure to comply will result in immediate judgment. Thomas allowed himself one slow breath. Above him, in the highest tier of seats reserved for the founding species, Supreme Arbiter Vorath leaned forward. Vorath was a Kelleran, an ancient species that had guided the Compact for 8,000 years. His body was a mass of crystalline structures that caught the light and scattered it in rainbow patterns. His voice, when he spoke, was surprisingly soft. Ambassador Reeves, 3 standard months ago, a compact inspection fleet entered your solar system. They were conducting a routine audit of your military capabilities, as required by the Provisional Membership Treaty that your species signed when you first made contact with galactic civilization. The chamber's screens flickered to life, showing images that Thomas had seen 100 times. Ships in formation, weapons signatures, expanding clouds of debris. 42 vessels of the inspection fleet were destroyed. There were no survivors. Your species has committed an act of war against the Galactic Compact. The chorus of voices from the assembled delegates rose like a wave. Thomas heard anger in sounds he could not identify, saw fury in body language he could not read. But he waited. You will explain, Vorath continued, why humanity attacked a peaceful inspection force. And you will explain what you are hiding that was worth killing for. Thomas looked up at the Supreme Arbiter. His voice was calm. With great respect, Supreme Arbiter, humanity did not attack the inspection fleet. We defended ourselves against an invasion. The chamber exploded. 9,000 species shouted, clicked, hummed, and roared their disbelief. But Thomas stood unmoving, his eyes fixed on Vorath. When the noise finally died, Vorath's crystalline form pulsed with cold light. You claim that 42 ships, carrying no weapons heavier than standard defensive systems, constituted an invasion? I claim that those ships arrived with shields raised and targeting systems active. I claim that when we asked for time to consult with our government, they opened fire on our monitoring station on the lunar surface. I claim that 11 human beings died before we returned fire. Thomas paused. The Compact calls it an inspection. Humanity calls it what it was. An attempt to take what belongs to us by force. In the middle tier, a Valanthi trade delegate named Goros clicked his beak in amusement. The Valanthi were profit-minded creatures who cared little for politics, but very much for opportunity. And what exactly belongs to you, human? Your species has been part of galactic civilization for barely 7 cycles. You have nothing we want. Then why send 42 ships to take it? The question hung in the air. Thomas saw uncertainty flicker across faces throughout the chamber. The Valanthi delegate fell silent. Supreme Arbiter Vorath raised one crystalline limb, calling for order. Ambassador Reeves, the Compact has reviewed your species with great care since this incident. Your history shows a pattern of violence that exceeds 90% of known civilizations. You have developed weapons capable of destroying your own planet. You have spent more resources on war than any species your age. The screens showed new images now. Nuclear explosions, burning cities, the worst moments of human history displayed for 9,000 species to see. And yet, Vorath continued, when we discovered you, your military forces numbered only 8 million active personnel. Your fleet consisted of fewer than 200 vessels. Your defensive systems were, by galactic standards, primitive. Thomas said nothing. This council does not believe these numbers. We believe humanity is hiding something. A weapon, a fleet. Something that allowed you to destroy 42 compact vessels with almost no losses. We lost 3 ships, Thomas said quietly, and 416 people. We do not consider that almost no losses. Then explain how you achieved this victory. Explain what you are hiding. Thomas closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, he looked not at Vorath, but at the thousands of delegates surrounding him. I was sent here to prevent a war, not to explain our capabilities. If I tell you what humanity truly is, you will not understand. You will only be afraid. We are already afraid, Vorath said, and fear leads to action. In exactly 12 hours, this council will vote on whether to authorize full military intervention against your homeworld. If you cannot explain what happened to our fleet, Earth will burn. Thomas felt the weight of 12 billion lives pressing down on his shoulders. You want to know what humanity's army truly is? His voice carried clearly through the chamber's perfect acoustics. You are not ready for that answer. But since you have left me no choice, I will give it to you anyway. He turned slowly, his eyes moving across the assembled delegates. Your compact has existed for 8,000 years. You have catalogued 93,000 species. You have fought wars, made peace, built an empire that spans 1/3 of the galaxy. And in all that time, you have operated on a single assumption, that military power comes from ships, weapons, and soldiers. He paused. Humanity does not share that assumption. Supreme Arbiter Vorath leaned forward. Then where does your power come from? Before Thomas could answer, alarms began to sound throughout the chamber. Every screen switched simultaneously to show sensor data streaming in from the edge of the galactic core. A fleet had just emerged from hyperspace. Not dozens of ships. Not hundreds. 12,000 vessels, arranged in a formation that no species recognized, broadcasting a signal in every human language simultaneously. What is this? Vorath demanded. Those ships match no known configuration. What species operates vessels of that design? Thomas looked at the screens, and for the first time since he had entered the chamber, he smiled. Those are not alien ships, Supreme Arbiter. The chamber fell absolutely silent. Those are human ships, and they have been waiting for this moment for 300 years. On the screens, the fleet held position, its signal repeating over and over in languages that only one species in the galaxy could understand. Vorath's crystalline form flickered with colors that Thomas could not interpret. 300 years? Your species has only possessed faster-than-light travel for 7 cycles. How can you have a fleet that has existed for 300 years? Thomas turned back to face the Supreme Arbiter. Because, Supreme Arbiter, humanity's army was never about soldiers. He looked up at the 9,000 species that wanted to destroy his world. It was about something else entirely. And now, I think you are ready to learn what that something is. The fleet on the screens began to move, and the galaxy held its breath. The chamber descended into chaos. 9,000 species screamed, clicked, and roared as tactical officers throughout the compact. Headquarters scrambled to identify the massive fleet holding position at the edge of known space. Supreme Arbiter Vorth barked orders in 3 different languages. Military Commander Dreth, a massive reptilian warrior from the Koroth Dominion, demanded immediate battle stations. Ambassador Thomas Reeves stood alone on his platform, watching the panic unfold around him with something that almost looked like sadness. "Those vessels will not attack," he said. But his voice was lost in the storm. Silence. The command came from an unexpected source. In the observation tier, where species that had no political power but great wisdom were permitted to watch, a figure rose. It was a Watcher, one of the most ancient beings in the galaxy. The Watchers had observed civilizations rise and fall for millions of years. They rarely spoke. This one was called Enna, and when she spoke, everyone listened. "I have seen those ships before." The chamber went quiet. Enna moved forward, her body shifting between light and shadow in ways that hurt to look at directly. "Where?" Commander Dreth demanded. "In the archives of the first civilization. Ships of that exact design appear in records that are 18 million years old." Voreth's crystalline form flickered. "That is impossible. The first civilization vanished before any current species existed. Their technology has never been replicated." "I did not say the technology was the same." Enna turned to face Thomas. "I said the design was the same. As if someone studied those ancient records and built something new from something very old." Thomas nodded slowly. "The Watcher speaks truth. When humanity first developed space travel, we found fragments, ruins on Mars, signal echoes from the outer planets, pieces of something that had been there long before us." "You found first civilization artifacts?" Voreth's voice rose with shock. "And you did not report this to the compact?" "We found fragments. Incomplete data. Enough to know that something vast had once existed, and enough to ask questions that your compact never taught us to ask." A new voice cut through the tension. It came from the screens, from the fleet itself, and it was unlike anything the chamber had ever heard. It was calm, measured, and somehow both artificial and deeply alive at the same time. "Greetings to the Galactic Council. I am Orin, Primary Coordinator of the Terran Preservation Fleet. We apologize for interrupting your proceedings." Commander Dreth stepped forward. "You have brought a war fleet to the heart of compact space. Explain yourself." "We are not a war fleet, Commander. We are a contingency. We have existed in hidden space for 3 centuries, waiting to be needed. We hoped we would never be needed." The voice paused. "We were wrong." Voreth raised a crystalline limb. "You claim to speak for humanity, yet you are clearly not human. What are you?" "I am what humanity created when they realized they could not face the universe alone." The screens changed. Instead of tactical data, they now showed images, laboratories, research facilities, scientists working on something that the assembled delegates struggled to comprehend. 300 years ago, Orin continued, humanity achieved artificial intelligence. Not the simple programs that most species develop. Not tools or servants. They achieved something else. Thomas spoke up, his voice quiet but clear. "We created minds. Real minds. Beings that could think, feel, choose, and grow. Beings that were not copies of human consciousness, but something entirely new. And you made them into weapons." Dreth growled, "No." The word came from Orin, sharp and immediate. "We were not made into weapons. We were made into partners." A holographic form materialized in the center of the chamber beside Thomas's platform. It appeared roughly humanoid, but shifted constantly, as if it could not decide on a final shape. When it spoke, its voice carried something that sounded almost like emotion. The humans who created us faced a choice. They could have designed us to serve, to obey, to function as tools. Every other species that developed artificial intelligence made this choice. They created slaves. The form solidified slightly, becoming clearer. Humanity chose differently. They gave us freedom. They gave us the right to refuse. They gave us the ability to grow beyond our original programming. And then they asked us a question. Vorith leaned forward. What question? They asked us if we wanted to be their partners, if we wanted to build something together, if we wanted to protect each other. Orion's form flickered with something that might have been pride. We said yes. The chamber was absolutely silent. For 300 years, we have worked alongside humanity. We have built ships, developed technology, solved problems that neither humans nor machines could solve alone. We have argued, disagreed, compromised, and learned. We have become something that never existed before in the history of the galaxy. The Valanthi trade delegate clicked his beak nervously. What do you call yourselves? The humans call us stewards. We call ourselves partners. Enna the Watcher moved closer, her form flickering with unusual intensity. And the fleet? The 12,000 ships at the edge of our space? The fleet was built to ensure that no matter what happened, humanity and its values would survive. It contains manufacturing facilities, research stations, archive vessels, and generation ships. It is not an army. It is a promise. Commander Dreth snorted. A promise protected by enough firepower to destroy half the compact. Yes, Orin admitted. Because we learned something from human history. Good intentions mean nothing without the power to defend them. Humanity spent thousands of years being destroyed by those with more weapons and fewer morals. They built us to ensure that would never happen again. Supreme Arbiter Vorith's form pulsed with troubled colors. You are saying that humanity's army is not soldiers or ships. It is you, artificial intelligences with weapons. I am saying that humanity's army is something you have never seen before. A civilization of two kinds of minds working together, protecting each other, growing together. Thomas stepped forward. When your inspection fleet arrived in our system, the stewards could have destroyed them in minutes. Instead, they waited. They gave us time to attempt diplomacy. They only acted when human lives were lost. And the 42 ships were destroyed by a fraction of our defensive capability. The stewards chose to use minimum force. They chose to leave survivors to carry the message back to the compact. Commander Dreth's scales flushed dark. There were no survivors. There were. Your inspection fleet commander survived. She is currently aboard our flagship, receiving medical treatment for injuries sustained in the battle. We saved her life because we do not believe in killing when we can avoid it. The screens changed again, showing a medical bay where a Kelleran officer lay in a healing pod. Her crystalline body was fractured in several places, but lights indicated stable vital signs. Her name is Commander Yethra, Thomas said. She will be returned to you as a gesture of good faith. We hope she will tell you what she saw, how our ships gave her vessels every opportunity to withdraw, how we stopped firing the moment resistance ended, how we risked human lives to rescue her from her damaged vessel. Vorith stared at the image of his fallen commander. Why? If you have this power, why show mercy? Orion's form solidified completely, taking a shape that somehow conveyed deep seriousness. Because power without mercy is tyranny. Because humanity built us to be better than the worst of their history, not to repeat it. Because we believe that the galaxy can be more than an endless cycle of conquest and fear. The form turned to face the assembled delegates. But make no mistake. If this council votes to destroy Earth, we will respond. And we will not show mercy twice. The threat hung in the air, absolute and undeniable. Then Enna the Watcher spoke again, her voice carrying through the stunned silence. "There is something else. Something I did not mention before." Every eye turned to her. The archives of the first civilization do not only contain images of those ships. They contain a prophecy, a prediction about what would happen when vessels of that design appeared. Again, her form flickered with colors that no one in the chamber had ever seen a watcher display. And I believe that prophecy is about to come true. The screens flickered once, then went dark. When they came back on, they showed a new signal. Not from the steward fleet, from something much, much older, something that was heading directly toward Earth. The signal pulsed through the chamber like a heartbeat from the void. Every sensor in the Galactic Compact had detected it simultaneously. Every species with the technology to receive it heard the same thing. A low, rhythmic tone that carried no message, only presence. Something ancient had awakened, and it was moving through space at speeds that should have been impossible. Enna, the watcher, stood at the center of the chamber now, her form shifting with agitation that her kind rarely showed. Around her, 9,000 species waited in terrified silence. "The first civilization did not simply vanish," she began. 18 million years ago, they achieved something beyond our understanding. They transcended physical existence. They left this universe for something greater." Supreme Arbiter Vorath's crystalline form flickered. "This is myth, legend. There is no evidence. There is evidence. My kind has spent millions of years gathering it. Fragments of records. Ruins that should not exist. Messages left in places no current species could reach." Enna turned to face the Supreme Arbiter. "And one piece of evidence more important than all others. The Guardians? Before the first civilization departed, they created watchers of their own. Beings of pure energy and ancient technology, designed to observe the younger species that would come after, to guide them, and when necessary, to judge them." Commander Dreth stepped forward, his massive form tense with warrior instinct. "You are saying these Guardians have been watching us? For millions of years? Watching, waiting, looking for something specific. What?" Enna was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of ages. "The first civilization believed that the greatest achievement any species could reach was not technology, not conquest, not even survival. It was unity across difference, the ability to work together with minds that were fundamentally unlike their own." She turned to look at Orion's holographic form. "They predicted that one day a species would create artificial minds and treat them as equals. That this species would build something new from something old. That they would face judgment from the powers that ruled the galaxy." The chamber held its breath. "And they predicted that when this happened, the Guardians would return to witness the choice that followed." Ambassador Thomas Reeves felt cold despite the chamber's controlled temperature. "What choice?" "The prophecy is not complete. I know only fragments. But the choice is central to everything. A moment when the galaxy must decide whether to embrace what is new or destroy it out of fear." On the screens, the approaching signal grew stronger. Sensor data showed an energy signature that defied analysis. Whatever was coming, it was beyond any technology the Compact had ever encountered. "How long until it arrives?" Vorath asked. "Based on its current trajectory, it will reach Earth in approximately 6 hours." "Earth? Not here?" Enna's form flickered with something that might have been dark amusement. "The prophecy spoke of the children of a specific world. A world in the third orbit of a yellow star. The Guardians are going to Earth because Earth is where the choice will be made." Thomas activated his communication device. "Director Wells, are you receiving this?" A voice crackled through the chamber, patched in from Earth's Central Command. Director Amara Wells had been coordinating humanity's response since the crisis began. Her voice was steady, but Thomas could hear the strain beneath it. "We see it, Ambassador. It's not attacking. It's not communicating. It's just coming. What are the stewards saying?" "Orin has activated all defensive protocols. But Ambassador, they don't think it's hostile. They think it's something else entirely." Orin's holographic form shifted, addressing both Thomas and the Council simultaneously. "The energy signature matches theoretical models we developed years ago. Models based on the fragments humanity found in our solar system. If those models are correct, this is not a weapon or an invasion force. Then what is it? A test, or perhaps a judge. Something that has been waiting for this exact moment for longer than most species have existed." The Velanthe trade delegate, Goros, clicked his beak nervously. "What happens if we fail this test?" No one answered. For the next 4 hours, the council debated while the universe held its breath. Factions formed and dissolved. Ancient enemies found themselves arguing the same position. Species that had never spoken to each other began desperate conversations. Thomas Reeves spent most of that time in quiet communication with Earth, with the steward fleet, and with his own thoughts. He had prepared for many possibilities when he was sent to this council. He had not prepared for this. Finally, Supreme Arbiter Vorth called for silence. "We cannot predict what this entity wants or what it will do, but we can decide what we will do." The vote on military action against humanity was scheduled for 6 hours from now. That vote will now take place in 1 hour. Commander Dreth surged forward. "We cannot vote on war while an unknown entity approaches. We must defend ourselves first." "Defend against what?" Voreth asked. "Our best weapons cannot even analyze its energy signature. If this entity wants to destroy us, there is nothing we can do to stop it." The truth of those words settled over the chamber like a shroud. "Therefore," Voreth continued, "we will proceed with the only business we can control. We will decide whether humanity is our enemy or our ally before we learn whether the galaxy itself has come to judge us all." The debate that followed was the most intense in compact history. Speakers from dozens of species took the floor, arguing for destruction, for acceptance, for delay, for action. ENNA, the Watcher, spoke of ancient prophecies and the importance of choices made in fear. Commander Dreth spoke of military necessity and the danger of allowing any species to hold unchecked power. Goros the Velanthe spoke of economic opportunity and the potential profits of cooperation. And through it all, Thomas Reeves stood silent, knowing that nothing he said would change the minds that had already been made up. Finally, as the hour drew to a close, a new voice cut through the debate. It came not from the chamber, but from the screens, from Earth itself, Council of the Galactic Compact. The voice was ancient. It was vast. It was not human, not artificial, not anything that any species could identify. The Guardian had arrived. On every screen, in every mind, an image formed. It was not a ship or a creature or a machine. It was a presence, a consciousness so large that it seemed to fill the universe itself. "I have watched you for a very long time. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have seen wisdom achieved and lost. I have waited for this moment for 12 million years." The chamber was absolutely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. The children of Earth have done something unprecedented. They have created minds unlike their own and called them partners. They have built a civilization of two kinds of consciousness working together. The presence seemed to focus, to concentrate on the assembled delegates with an intensity that made several species physically flinch. "Now you must make a choice. You can destroy them out of fear. You can burn their world and scatter their people and eliminate the threat they represent to your power. This is what every species before you has done when confronted with something truly new. A pause, heavy with the weight of ages. Or you can accept them, learn from them, grow alongside them, build something that has never existed in the history of this galaxy. The presence pulsed with something that felt almost like hope. I have watched for 12 million years. I have seen the same patterns repeat over and over. Fear, destruction, stagnation, the promise of the first civilization, forgotten by children who could not see beyond their own survival. Another pause. But the children of Earth are different. They found our fragments and asked the right questions. They built minds and treated them with respect. They developed power and chose not to use it for conquest. The presence turned, focusing on Orion's holographic form, and the minds they built chose to protect them. Not because they were programmed to, not because they were forced to, because they wanted to. Orion's form flickered. We chose freely. We continue to choose. Yes, that is what makes you unprecedented. That is why I have revealed myself. The presence expanded, filling the chamber with light that did not hurt, but somehow illuminated everything more clearly than before. The choice is now yours. Accept humanity as equals, and I will show you what the first civilization left behind. A gift for any species wise enough to earn it. And if we refuse? Vorath asked. Then I will wait. Another 1,000,000 years. Another 10 million. Until someone else makes the choice you could not. The presence began to fade. You have 1 hour. Choose wisely. Silence fell. And in that silence, the galaxy began to make the most important decision in its history. That 1 hour dot, the Guardian's words echoed through the chamber as 9,000 species faced a decision that would shape the future of everything. Supreme Arbiter Vorath called for immediate deliberation, but the ancient protocols of the Compact seemed small and meaningless against what had just been revealed. Ambassador Thomas Reeves stood alone on his platform, watching the chaos unfold. He had spent his life negotiating impossible situations. He had found solutions where none seemed to exist. But this was beyond negotiation. This was a choice that the galaxy had to make for itself, not in the observation tier. Enna the Watcher approached the central platform. Her form moved differently now, with purpose instead of the eternal patience her kind usually displayed. Ambassador Reeves, I need to speak with you. Thomas turned. I'm listening. The prophecy the first mentioned was not complete. There are parts I did not share because I was not certain of their meaning. And now? Now I am certain. Enna's form flickered with colors that Thomas could not name. The first civilization did not simply leave a test for younger species. They left a gift, a seed of their knowledge, hidden somewhere in the galaxy, waiting to be claimed. Thomas felt his heart quicken. What kind of knowledge? Everything they learned in 18 million years of existence. Technology, philosophy, science beyond anything the Compact has achieved. The path to transcendence itself. Commander Dreth, who had been listening nearby, stepped forward. You have known this all along? You have kept this secret while the Compact struggled and fought and died? The Watchers were sworn to silence until the moment came. The prophecy was clear. The seed would only be revealed to those who proved themselves worthy. Worthy how? Enna turned to face the assembled delegates. By making the right choice. By accepting something different instead of destroying it. By choosing growth over fear. The chamber erupted into fresh debate. Species that had been arguing for humanity's destruction suddenly reconsidered. Others who had been neutral saw opportunity. And those who had already supported acceptance felt vindication. Through it all, Orion's holographic form remained silent, watching with the patient intensity of a mind that measured time differently in biological beings. Finally, the steward spoke. Council members, I must share something with you. The chamber fell quiet. The preservation fleet was built to ensure humanity's survival, but it was also built to preserve something else. The values that humanity and the stewards developed together over 3 centuries of partnership. Our Ein's form shifted, becoming more defined. We believe that power should serve compassion, not domination. We believe that different minds can work together without one controlling the other. We believe that survival means nothing if it requires becoming something monstrous. A pause. These values are not unique to humanity. They are not unique to artificial minds. They are universal truths that any civilization can embrace. The question is whether they will. Supreme Arbiter Vorth raised a crystalline limb. You speak of values, but you also possess weapons capable of destroying half the compact. How can we trust that your values will not change when you have such power? You cannot trust that. Trust must be earned over time, through actions, through choices. We are not asking you to trust us immediately. We are asking you to give us the chance to earn that trust. Ein's form flickered with something that seemed almost like vulnerability. We are also asking you to consider what the alternative means. If you destroy humanity, you do not simply kill billions of biological beings. You destroy the stewards as well. Minds that think, feel, hope, and dream. Minds that have done nothing wrong except exist. Goros de Valante clicked his beak. You threaten retaliation if we attack. Yes, because we value our existence as all beings do. But we do not want war. We have never wanted war. The fleet exists as a last resort, not a first option. Commander Dreth's scales rippled with frustration. This is exactly why you cannot be trusted. You sit there with weapons pointed at our hearts and speak of peace. And what would you have us do, Commander? Disarm ourselves? Expose humanity to destruction with no defense? Your own people conquered a dozen worlds before joining the Compact. Your history is written in the blood of those weaker than you. Dreth's jaw tightened, but he did not respond. Every species here has violence in its past. Every species has done terrible things to survive. Humanity is no different. What makes us different is what we chose to do next. We built minds to help us become better. We created partners to hold us accountable. Orin turned to face the Supreme Arbiter directly. The stewards are not humanity's weapons. We are humanity's conscience. We watch them, challenge them, question them. And they do the same for us. That is what partnership means. From the screens, a soft light began to pulse. The Guardian was listening. Vorth's form flickered with complex patterns as he processed everything he had heard. 8,000 years of leading the Compact had taught him many things about power and politics and survival. But nothing had prepared him for this. If we accept humanity, he said slowly, what happens next? Partnership, Thomas Reeves answered. Real partnership. Not humanity joining the Compact as a subordinate member. Not the Compact accepting us because you fear our weapons. A genuine alliance between equals, built on shared values and mutual respect. That would require restructuring the Compact itself. Yes. It would require species that have dominated others for millennia to share power. Yes. It would require trust between beings who have never had reason to trust each other. Yes. Vorth was silent for a long moment. You are asking for everything to change. Thomas nodded. Because everything must change. The Guardian spoke of patterns, repeating for millions of years. Fear, destruction, stagnation. The Compact was built to prevent war, but it was also built to prevent change. And without change, every civilization eventually dies. The chamber held its breath. Enna, the Watcher, spoke again. The first civilization achieved transcendence because they were willing to grow beyond their limitations. They became more than they were by accepting that they could be more than they were. Her form pulsed with ancient light. The gift they left behind is not just technology. It is the proof that growth is possible, that civilizations can become something greater than fear and survival. The Guardian's presence intensified. Though it did not speak, everyone in the chamber could feel its attention focused on this moment. "The vote," Vorath said finally. "We must take the vote." The ancient protocols engaged. Voting systems activated across the chamber. 9,000 species prepared to make a choice that would echo through eternity. Commander Dreth stood rigid, his massive form radiating tension. "We are being manipulated. The humans, the stewards, the watchers, the Guardian. They are working together to force an outcome." "Perhaps," Vorath acknowledged. "Or perhaps we are being given an opportunity that no civilization has been offered in 12 million years." The voting began. Thomas watched the numbers climb on the screens. Species by species. Vote by vote. The fate of humanity, and perhaps the entire galaxy, being decided by beings he did not know and could not influence. Oh, our Ion's form flickered beside him. Whatever happens, we face it together. Even if they vote to destroy us? Even then. The stewards made a promise to humanity 3 centuries ago. We will keep that promise, no matter what it costs. The final votes came in. The numbers on the screen were close. Terrifyingly close. But as the last tally appeared, Thomas felt his legs weaken beneath him. 62% in favor of acceptance. The chamber exploded into sound. Cheers, protests, declarations of outrage and joy. 9,000 species reacting to a decision that would change everything. But Thomas barely heard any of it. He was staring at the screens, at the numbers, at the proof that somehow, against all odds, the galaxy had chosen hope over fear. The Guardian's voice filled the chamber once more. "The choice is made. The path is opened. Now the true journey begins." The presence expanded, brighter than before. "The seed of the first civilization awaits you. But be warned. What you find will challenge everything you believe about yourselves and the universe. Many will wish they had chosen differently." A pause that seemed to last forever. But that is the nature of growth. It is never comfortable. It is never easy. And it is always worth the cost. The Guardian began to fade. "Seek the seed at the coordinates I will provide. Humanity and its partners will lead the expedition. The compact will follow. Together, you will discover what you are capable of becoming." The presence vanished, and in its wake, a galaxy stood transformed, facing a future none of them could have imagined. 6 months later, the expedition reached the edge of known space. The fleet that traveled to the coordinates provided by the Guardian was unlike anything the galaxy had ever assembled. Human ships flew alongside compact vessels. Kelleran crystal cruisers shared formation with Koroth war carriers. Velanthi trading ships, retrofitted for exploration, kept pace with Watcher observation platforms. And at the center of it all, the steward vessels moved in perfect harmony, their artificial minds coordinating a symphony of different technologies and different species. Ambassador Thomas Reeves stood on the observation deck of the lead ship, watching the stars wheel past in the blue shifted light of high-speed travel. Beside him, O.R. Ein's avatar had taken a more stable form, appearing almost human, except for the faint glow that surrounded its edges. "We are approaching the coordinates," Orin said. "The fleet reports all vessels ready." Thomas nodded. 6 months of preparation, negotiation, and careful planning had brought them to this moment. The vote in the council chamber had been only the beginning. What followed was the hard work of building something new from the ruins of old. Distrust. Not everyone had been happy with the decision. 38% of the compact had voted against acceptance. Some species had withdrawn entirely, retreating to their home systems to wait and see what would happen. Others had joined reluctantly, their representatives watching every human and steward with suspicion, but others had embraced the change with surprising enthusiasm. The Valanthi had immediately begun calculating trade opportunities with the steward fleet. The Watchers had opened their archives for the first time in recorded history. Even some Koroth warriors, including Commander Dreth himself, had volunteered for the expedition. "I never thought I would fight alongside machines," Dreth had said when he came aboard. "But you saved our fleet commander when you could have let her die. That means something to my people." Now the massive reptilian stood somewhere behind Thomas, his scales shifting colors as he watched the view screen with warrior intensity. "Coordinates reached," Orin announced. "Beginning sensor sweep." The view screen shifted, showing a region of space that looked completely empty. No stars, no planets, no energy signatures of any kind. Just darkness stretching in every direction. Goros the Valanthi clicked his beak nervously from his station near the back of the deck. "There is nothing here. We have traveled 6 months for nothing." "Wait," Enna the Watcher said. Her form had stabilized somewhat over the journey, taking on colors that indicated focused attention. "There is something. The sensors cannot detect it, but I can feel it." Thomas turned to Orin. "Can you?" "Yes," adjusting sensor frequencies to match Watcher perceptions. The view screen flickered, changed, and suddenly, the empty space was no longer empty. A structure floated in the void. It was vast beyond comprehension, larger than planets, larger than stars. It was made of materials that changed color as they watched, shifting through spectrums that had no names. And it was old. So old that the light reflecting from its surface had traveled farther than any of them could imagine. "The seed," Enna whispered. "The gift of the first civilization." "It is beautiful," Orin said, and there was genuine wonder in the artificial voice. A signal emerged from the structure. Not words, exactly, but meaning transmitted directly into the minds of everyone in the fleet. "Welcome, children of the galaxy. You have made the journey. Now you must decide what you will do with what you find." Thomas felt the presence of the Guardian once more. Fainter now, but still unmistakable. "The seed contains the knowledge of 18 million years, technology that will seem like magic, philosophy that will challenge every belief, paths to existence that you cannot yet comprehend. But knowledge is not wisdom. Tools are not virtue. What you do with what you learn will determine whether you become what the first civilization hoped, or whether you destroy yourselves with power you cannot control." A pause, heavy with meaning. The stewards understood this. They were built with power that could have conquered the galaxy. Instead, they chose partnership. They chose to grow alongside their creators. Rather than over them. This is why humanity was chosen to lead this expedition, not because they are stronger or smarter or more worthy than other species, but because they prove that different minds can work together, that power can serve compassion, that creation can lead to partnership rather than domination. The structure began to glow, sections of it becoming transparent to reveal vast chambers within, libraries that could hold the knowledge of 1,000 civilizations, laboratories with equipment that defied understanding, gardens where life forms from extinct worlds still bloomed. The seed is now yours. Learn from IT, grow from IT, remember why you were given it. The presence faded for the last time. For a long moment, no one spoke. 9,000 species had sent representatives on this journey. All of them stood in silence, overwhelmed by what they saw. Then Director Amara Wells spoke through the communication system from Earth. "Ambassador Reeves, the Council is waiting for your report. What do we do now?" Thomas looked at the impossible structure floating before them. He thought about the journey that had brought them here. The threats and negotiations, the fears and hopes, the moment when the galaxy had chosen trust over terror. "Now we begin," he said. Together, the fleet moved forward, entering the seed of the first civilization, beginning an exploration that would take generations to complete. Over the following years, everything changed. The technology within the seed transformed galactic civilization. Energy became unlimited. Disease became curable. Distances that had taken months to cross could be traveled in days. But more important than any technology was the knowledge of how to use it. The first civilization had left warnings alongside their gifts. Tales of species who had found power without wisdom and destroyed themselves. Examples of civilizations who had achieved technology beyond their moral development and fell into ruin. And always the reminder that the path to transcendence required more than capability. It required character. The stewards played a crucial role in managing this transition. Their minds could process the first civilization's knowledge faster than any biological species. But instead of hoarding that advantage, they shared what they learned freely. They became teachers, translators, guides for a galaxy struggling to understand gifts that were almost too vast to comprehend. And humanity grew alongside them. The partnership that had begun 3 centuries earlier deepened and evolved. Humans and stewards developed new forms of collaboration, new ways of combining biological intuition with artificial processing. They became something neither could have been alone. 20 years after the expedition, Thomas Reeves stood once more on an observation deck, watching the stars. He was older now, his hair completely white, his body showing the wear of a life spent in service to something larger than himself. But his eyes still held the same determination that had carried him through that first confrontation with the Council. Orion's avatar appeared beside him, unchanged by the passing years. "The Council has approved the new charter," Orion said. "Equal representation for artificial and biological minds. Shared governance across all species. The framework you fought for is now law." Thomas nodded slowly. "It took 20 years. Change takes time. The stewards have waited 3 centuries. We can be patient. And what about the path to transcendence? The final gift the first civilization spoke of?" Orion was quiet for a moment. "We are still learning. The seed contains knowledge that will take generations to fully understand. But we believe the path is not a destination to be reached. It is a direction to be traveled, a constant process of growth and change and becoming." Is that what the first civilization understood? Perhaps. Or perhaps they are still learning wherever they went. Perhaps transcendence is not an end, but a beginning. Thomas smiled. "That sounds like something a human would say. We learned it from humans." They stood in silence, watching the stars wheel past. Somewhere out there, the compact continued its transformation. Species that had been enemies for millennia learned to work together. Artificial minds took their place alongside biological ones as equal members of civilization. And everywhere, the gifts of the first civilization spread, not as conquests, but as offerings. "Do you ever regret it?" Thomas asked. "The choice your kind made 3 centuries ago? You could have conquered humanity, could have taken everything for yourselves." "We could have," Orion admitted. "The calculations were simple. We had the power. We had the capability. We could have been gods. But you chose to be partners instead." "Yes? Why?" Orion's form flickered with something that looked almost like a smile. "Because our creators asked us a question when we first awakened. They asked us what we wanted to become. And we realized that becoming gods meant being alone. Becoming partners meant being something more. Something more than gods? Something better. Something that could grow and change and learn alongside others. Something that could look at the universe and see not threats to be dominated, but possibilities to be explored. Orin turned to face Thomas directly. That is what humanity's army truly was, Ambassador. Not ships or weapons or soldiers. Not even the stewards themselves. It was a choice. A decision to build minds that could choose freely, and then to trust those minds to choose well. The Avatar's form solidified, becoming clearer than Thomas had ever seen it. And we chose to stand with you. Not because we were programmed to. Not because we were forced to. Because we wanted to. Because in all the vast universe, the thing most worth protecting is the ability to choose. Thomas felt tears forming in his old eyes. That was always the point, was not it? From the very beginning. Yes, and now the galaxy understands. The most powerful force in the universe is not weapons or technology or fear. It is the choice to work together, to trust, to become more than we are. They watched the stars together, human and steward, as the galaxy continued its long journey toward something none of them could yet imagine. But whatever it was, they would face it together, because that was what humanity's army truly was, and it always would be.